The Crithian flagship shuddered as the first human warship tore through the blockade line. Admiral Vexthor watched his tactical display explode with red markers. Impossible. The humans had been contained in our home system for 3 cycles. Their fleet was supposed to be crippled, scattered, broken. Yet here they were, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, right in the heart of the Galactic Empire's core territory. "All batteries, open fire!" Vexthor's mandibles clicked in fury. The Empire's response was immediate. 30,000 warships turned their weapons toward the human fleet. Energy beams lanced through space, brilliant and deadly. Missiles streaked forward in swarms that blotted out the stars. The human ships didn't slow down. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the incoming fire with cold eyes. Around him, his crew worked in perfect silence. No panic, no fear. They had trained for this moment since the Empire first arrived at Earth with their ultimatum. "Countermeasures active," his weapons officer called out. The Empire's missiles detonated against invisible barriers, their explosions flowering uselessly in the void. The energy beams bent and scattered, refracted by shielding technology the Crythians had never seen before. "Return fire," Jake said quietly. What happened next would be discussed in galactic archives for generations. The human fleet didn't use conventional weapons. Each ship unleashed something the Empire's scientists had deemed theoretically impossible. Weaponized gravity wells that collapsed space itself. Crithian warships imploded, crushed to the size of pebbles in microseconds. Vexthor's display went from red to black as his fleet simply ceased to exist. "Retreat! All ships retreat!" he screamed. "No retreat, Admiral," a human voice crackled over the communication channel. "You came to Earth. You demanded our surrender. You told us we were primitives playing with fire." Captain Lisa Grant smiled from the bridge of the Retribution as she locked targeting solutions on the fleeing command ships. Her grandmother had died in the orbital bombardment of New York. Her brother had burned when the Empire glassed Australia. She had promised them both that humanity would answer. "This is your answer," she transmitted across all frequencies. The human fleet accelerated. They moved faster than anything the Empire had built, faster than their sensor systems could track. The Crythian ships exploded one by one, torn apart by weapons that manipulated fundamental forces of physics. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. Vexthor floated in an escape pod, watching the Defiant approach. His fleet was gone. 30,000 ships reduced to debris. The humans hadn't lost a single vessel. Jake Morrison's face appeared on his pod's communication screen. "Take a message to your Emperor," Jake said. "Humanity is done being threatened. We're coming for every system you control, every planet you've subjugated, every species you've enslaved, and we're bringing freedom at the end of a gravity cannon." The pod's engines fired, hurling Vexthor toward the nearest Imperial outpost. Behind him, the human fleet set course for the Empire's heart. The Imperial Senate chamber on Krithia Prime had stood for 10,000 years. Today, it burned. Emperor Zalkoth watched through the viewport as human warships hung in orbit above his homeworld like predators circling wounded prey. 3 weeks. That was all it had taken for humanity to carve a path of destruction through 72 Imperial systems. His generals had promised him the humans would exhaust their resources, that their miraculous technology would fail, that their small fleet would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. They had been catastrophically wrong. "Your Majesty, the humans are broadcasting on all channels," his communication minister said, her voice trembling. "Show me." Captain Lisa Grant's face filled the main screen. Behind her, the bridge of the Retribution hummed with activity. She looked directly at the Emperor with eyes that held no mercy. "Emperor Zalkoth, I'm giving you 1 hour to order the complete evacuation of all military installations on Krithia Prime. After that, we will reduce every weapons facility, every shipyard, and every military headquarters to atoms. Your civilians will not be harmed if you comply. Resist, and we will show you the same compassion you showed Earth." The transmission ended. Zalkoth's advisors erupted into chaos. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others screamed for a final stand. The Emperor raised one taloned hand for silence. How many ships do we have left in the home defense fleet? 12,000, Your Majesty, but the humans only have 800 ships. We still outnumber them 15 to 1. Admiral Vexthor also outnumbered them, Zalkov said quietly. He is now a refugee on the outer colonies, babbling about weapons that break the laws of physics. What do our scientists say? The Empire's chief researcher stepped forward, her scales pale with fear. The humans have mastered gravitational manipulation at a quantum level. They can create localized singularities, bend space-time itself. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields because the shields don't block energy. They redirect space around the ships. Fighting them with conventional tactics is suicide. Then what do you suggest? Surrender, Your Majesty. Immediate and unconditional. The Emperor's eyes blazed. The Crithian Empire does not surrender to primitives. Launch every ship. Deploy every weapon. If we must die, we die with honor. In orbit, Commander Jake Morrison watched the Crithian fleet begin to mobilize. His tactical officer shook her head. They're really going to fight, she said. 12,000 ships against our 800. Their mistake, Jake replied. All ships. Combat formation Delta. Let's end this quickly. The human fleet spread out in a pattern that made no tactical sense to the Crithians. Instead of grouping for mutual defense, each ship positioned itself at precise mathematical intervals across the orbital plane. The Crithian armada charged forward, their courage overriding their fear. They fired everything they had. Jake pressed a single button. Every human ship activated their gravitational generators simultaneously. The carefully calculated positions created a resonance cascade, a web of artificial gravity that caught the entire Crithian fleet in an invisible net. The Empire's ships suddenly found themselves locked in place, unable to move forward or retreat. Now, Jake said. The Retribution and 7 other capital ships fired their primary weapons. The gravity cannons didn't destroy the Crithian vessels. They compressed them. 12,000 warships collapsed into a sphere of crushed metal and plasma barely a kilometer wide. The gravitational manipulation was so precise that not a single piece of debris escaped to threaten the planet below. The orbital battle lasted 90 seconds. On Krithia Prime, every screen showed the same image. Humanity's fleet, untouched and unopposed, holding absolute dominion over the Empire's capital world. Emperor Zelkoth sat down heavily on his throne. His military was gone. His fleet was destroyed. His empire's reputation for invincibility had been shattered in less than a month. Open a channel to the humans, he said, his voice hollow. Lisa Grant's face reappeared. She waited. What are your terms? The Emperor asked. Unconditional surrender of all Imperial military forces, immediate release of all enslaved species, full reparations to Earth and every world your empire has brutalized. And you, personally, will stand trial for crimes against sentient life. Zalkoth felt the weight of 10,000 years of Imperial history pressing down on him. But he also felt the weight of responsibility for the billions of Crithians who still lived on the planet below. I accept, he whispered. Smart choice, Lisa said. Our occupation forces will arrive within the hour. Any resistance will be met with immediate, overwhelming force. Welcome to the new galactic order, Emperor. Humanity is in charge now. The transmission ended, leaving Zalkoth alone with the ashes of his empire. The Velkari ambassador materialized on the bridge of the Defiant without warning, her form shimmering with advanced teleportation technology. Jake Morrison's crew had weapons drawn in seconds, but he raised a hand to stop them. The Velkari Collective, Jake said, studying the alien woman. She stood 7 feet tall, her skin a deep azure, her eyes like molten silver. We've heard stories. The Empire's oldest enemy. And now, it seems, we share a common interest, Ambassador Sira replied, her voice like wind chimes. The fall of the Crithian Empire. You're 3 weeks too late to help. We're not here to help with the Crithians. We're here to warn you about what comes next. Sira gestured, and a holographic star map appeared between them. The Empire controlled 40% of known space, but there are others. The hive consciousness of Sector 9. The merchant clans of the Outer Rim, The Ascendancy. Each of them watched the Crithians fall, and each of them is now making calculations about humanity. Jake's expression didn't change. Let them calculate. You misunderstand. The Crithians were brutal but predictable. They wanted tribute and obedience. The Hive wants to assimilate every biological organism into their collective consciousness. The Ascendancy believes in exterminating species they deem inferior, and the merchant clans will sell weapons to anyone willing to pay, including factions that want humanity erased from existence. Then they'll learn the same lesson the Empire did. Sira stepped closer, her silver eyes intense. Commander, in 3 weeks you've made humanity the most feared power in the galaxy. But fear breeds desperate alliances. Our intelligence indicates that 17 different species are already forming a coalition. They're pooling resources, sharing technology, preparing for a coordinated strike against Earth while your fleet is spread across former Imperial territory. For the first time, Jake's confidence wavered. How many ships? Conservative estimates? 50,000. And they're not using Crithian tactics. They've studied your battles. They know your gravity weapons require precise positioning and time to charge. They're developing countermeasures. Lieutenant Commander Danny Price spoke from the tactical station. Sir, if what she's saying is true, we can't defend Earth and hold the Imperial system simultaneously. We're spread too thin. Jake turned back to Sira. Why are you telling us this? What does the Velkari Collective want? An alliance. The Crithians oppressed us for 6,000 years. We want them to stay fallen, and we want humanity to succeed because you represent something this galaxy hasn't seen in millennia. A power willing to fight for freedom rather than domination. And in exchange, technology sharing. We give you our teleportation systems and quantum shielding. You give us your gravitational manipulation. Together, we become strong enough to face what's coming. Jake was silent for a long moment. Earth's government had given him broad authority to make tactical decisions, but this was diplomacy on a scale that could reshape the galaxy. I need to consult with Earth Command, he said finally. You have 12 hours before the Coalition launches their attack, Sira replied. They're gathering at the Nexus Point, 3 systems from here. If they reach Earth before you're ready, all your victories will be meaningless. On Earth, President Marcus Lawson stood in the ruins of what had been Washington, D.C. before the Crithian bombardment. The capital was being rebuilt, but the scars remained. He listened to Jake's report via quantum communication, his weathered face grim. An alliance with aliens, he said. 3 months ago, we didn't know they existed. Now we're considering them as partners. Sir, we have verification from our own scouts. There is a massive fleet gathering at the Nexus Point. If Sira is telling the truth, we're about to face a threat that makes the Crithian Empire look like a warm-up. Secretary of Defense Karen Wu leaned forward. Mr. President, our intelligence division has been analyzing captured Crithian records. The Velkari have been fighting the Empire longer than human civilization has existed. They've never broken their word in any documented treaty. If we're going to trust anyone out here, they're our best option. Lawson looked out at the skeletal remains of the Washington Monument, remembering the day it fell, authorized the alliance. But Morrison, you tell Ambassador Sira that humanity doesn't kneel to anyone. This is a partnership of equals, or it's nothing. Jake nodded. Understood, sir. Back on the Defiant, Sira smiled when she heard the decision. Your president is wise. The Velkari don't want subjects. We want allies who can stand beside us. Then let's get to work, Jake said. We have 12 hours to prepare for the biggest fight humanity has ever faced. Sira touched her wrist device, and suddenly the bridge was filled with Velkari technicians, materializing with equipment and data modules. Within minutes they were integrated with the human crew, working at a pace that astonished even Jake's best engineers. Lieutenant Amy Chen looked up from her station, her eyes wide. Sir, these teleportation systems are incredible. We could deploy troops directly onto enemy ships, extract casualties from battle zones, resupply without docking. And our gravity tech will give them offensive capabilities they've never had, Jake said. This might actually work. It has to work, Sira said quietly, pulling up a detailed scan of the Coalition fleet. Because if it doesn't, both our species will be extinct within a month. Jake studied the display, counting ships and analyzing formations. 50,000 vessels, all converging on one point with a single goal, the complete destruction of humanity. "All hands," he broadcast across the fleet. "This is Commander Morrison. Prepare for immediate deployment to the Nexus Point. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." The human fleet, now enhanced with Valkyrie technology, turned toward their new destination. The real war was about to begin. The Nexus Point was a region of space where 3 major hyperspace lanes intersected, making it the perfect staging ground for the Coalition Armada. When the human fleet arrived, they found themselves staring at a wall of warships that stretched across the entire star system. Commander Jake Morrison had seen overwhelming odds before, but this was different. The Coalition had learned from the Crithian failures. Their ships maintained irregular formations, constantly shifting positions to prevent the precise targeting his gravity weapons required. They had spread out across millions of kilometers, making it impossible to catch them all in a single trap. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Lieutenant Amy Chen reported. "It's from the Coalition flagship." The view screen activated, revealing a being unlike anything Jake had seen before. It had 4 arms, crystalline skin that refracted light in disturbing patterns, and eyes that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. This was Archon Zelnoth of the Ascendancy. "Human Commander," Zelnoth said, its voice a chorus of overlapping frequencies. "You have 10 minutes to withdraw your fleet and return to your home system. If you refuse, we will reduce your species to a memory." Jake glanced at Ambassador Sira, who stood beside his command chair. She gave a slight nod, confirming what their intelligence had suggested. Zelnoth was speaking for all 17 species in the Coalition. "That's a generous offer," Jake replied calmly. "Here's mine. Disperse immediately, or we'll send you home in pieces small enough to fit in a cargo container." Zelnoth's crystalline face somehow conveyed amusement. Arrogance. The Crythians were arrogant too. "But they fought us one fleet at a time. You face 17 civilizations united. Your gravity weapons are powerful, but we have adapted. Our ships carry inertial dampeners that neutralize localized gravitational fields. Your advantage is gone." The transmission ended. "He's bluffing," Danny Price said from Tactical. "If they had perfect countermeasures, they wouldn't have offered us a chance to retreat." "He's also not entirely wrong," Sira added. "Our combined intelligence shows they've developed partial defenses. Your weapons will be less effective than before." Jake studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. The Coalition had 50,000 ships against humanity's 800, and the Valkyries 300. Even with superior technology, those were impossible odds in a conventional engagement. "Then we don't fight conventionally," he said. "Sira, can your teleportation systems move something bigger than personnel?" "How much bigger?" "A planet-killer missile. About 50 megatons of antimatter." Sira's silver eyes widened. "That's theoretically possible, but the power requirements would be enormous. We'd have to drain the reactors from half the fleet just to teleport one." "Do it. And I need you to put it right in the center of their formation." Captain Lisa Grant's voice crackled over the command channel from the Retribution. "Jake, even if we take out their center, we're still outnumbered 40-1. We need a better plan than just hitting them hard." "We're not just hitting them hard," Jake replied. "We're showing them what desperation looks like." "Sira, how long to prepare the teleportation?" 8 minutes. Get started. All ships, begin evasive maneuvers. Make them think we're preparing to retreat. And someone get me a channel to every ship in that Coalition fleet." 3 minutes later, Jake's face appeared on every screen across the enemy armada. 50,000 ships, 17 different species, all watching as one human prepared to address them. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison of Earth," he began. "Your leaders told you we're primitives, upstarts who got lucky against the Crythians. They told you our technology could be countered, our fleet could be overwhelmed, our spirit could be broken. They were wrong." Paused, letting his words sink in across the translation matrices. "Humanity didn't ask for this war. We didn't seek conflict with the galaxy. But when the Crithian Empire came to our world and demanded our surrender, we made a choice. We chose to fight, And when they bombarded our cities and killed our families, we made another choice. We chose to win, no matter the cost. On the Coalition flagship, Archon Zelnath watched with growing unease. Something in the human's tone suggested this wasn't a plea for mercy. You think you've adapted to our weapons, Jake continued. You think your numbers give you safety. You think your alliance makes you strong. But you've made one critical mistake. You've assumed we'll fight fair. The transmission ended. Sir, the teleportation device is ready, Sierra reported. Fire it. Across 17 different bridges, alarms began screaming simultaneously. A massive antimatter weapon had materialized in the exact geometric center of the Coalition formation. They had 3 seconds to react. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The antimatter detonation created a shockwave that tore through space itself, ripping apart everything within 1,000 kilometers. 2,000 Coalition ships simply ceased to exist. But Jake wasn't done. All ships, activate gravity wells. Maximum output. Create a compression field around the blast zone. The human and Valkyrie vessels worked in perfect coordination, their combined gravitational generators creating an artificial boundary around the explosion. Instead of dispersing naturally, the antimatter blast was contained, compressed, intensified. The energy couldn't escape outward, so it expanded inward, creating a cascading chain reaction that pulled nearby ships into the maelstrom. Dock. 4,000 more Coalition vessels were dragged into the gravitational anomaly and crushed. In less than 30 seconds, the Coalition had lost 12% of their fleet. They're breaking formation, Danny Price shouted. Multiple ships attempting to flee. Don't let them, Jake ordered. All batteries, free fire. Target their engines. We're not here to destroy them all. We're here to make them understand they can't win. The human fleet surged forward, their weapons now enhanced with Valkyrie targeting systems. Every shot was precise, calculated, devastating. They didn't aim to kill. They aimed to cripple, to disable, to demonstrate absolute superiority. On the Coalition flagship, Archon Zelnath watched its carefully assembled armada dissolve into chaos. The humans were everywhere at once, teleporting into optimal firing positions, coordinating attacks with mathematical perfection. The Valkyrie ships provided covering fire, their quantum shields absorbing hits that would have destroyed lesser vessels. All ships, concentrate fire on the human flagship, Zelnath commanded. If we kill their commander, they'll fall apart. 20,000 weapons turned toward the Defiant. Jake saw it coming. Sierra, get us out of here. The Defiant vanished from its position a split second before the coordinated strike hit. The ship reappeared behind the Coalition lines, completely untouched. Return fire, Jake said quietly. The Defiant's gravity cannon spoke with terrible authority, and Cease Coalition cruisers collapsed into metal debris. The battle raged for 6 brutal hours. The Coalition fleet, despite its numerical advantage, found itself fighting an enemy that refused to follow any predictable pattern. Human ships teleported across the battlefield, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before retaliation could arrive. The Valkyrie vessels provided a defensive backbone, their quantum shields absorbing punishment, while their weapons carved through enemy formations, but numbers still mattered. Sir, we've lost the Valiant and the Horizon, Danny Price reported, his voice tight. The Retribution has taken critical damage to its port engines. We're down to 740 operational ships. Jake watched another human destroyer explode on his tactical display. Each loss was a knife in his gut. These were his people. His responsibility. The Coalition still had 38,000 ships in the fight, and they were adapting to humanity's tactics with terrifying speed. Commander, we need to withdraw, Ambassador Sierra said urgently. We've hurt them badly, but we can't win a war of attrition. Before Jake could respond, every screen on the bridge went dark. Then a new face appeared, broadcast simultaneously across every ship in the system, human and Coalition alike. It was a woman, elderly but with eyes that burned with fierce intelligence. She wore simple robes marked with symbols Jake didn't recognize. I am Matriarch Elisa Zara of the Council of Ancients, she said. This violence ends now. Archon Zelnath's voice crackled across the open channel. The Council has no authority here, Matriarch. This is a military matter. The Council has authority everywhere, Archon. Or have you forgotten the Accords of Preservation? Elisera's gaze shifted to Jake. Commander Morrison of Earth, I have watched your species with great interest. In 3 months, you have accomplished what most civilizations take millennia to achieve. You have also endangered the stability of the entire galaxy. Jake kept his expression neutral. We defended ourselves. The Crithian Empire attacked Earth unprovoked, and you responded by conquering their empire and threatening every established power structure in known space. The Council understands your anger, human, but we cannot allow unchecked expansion by any species, no matter how justified their initial actions. With respect, Matriarch, we don't answer to the Council. We answer to humanity. A slight smile crossed Elisera's ancient face, spoken like a true warrior. But consider this. The coalition you face today represents only a fraction of galactic civilization. There are powers older and far more dangerous than the Crithians, the Void Dwellers, the Eternal Machine, the Nexus Consciousness. Each of them is watching Earth, calculating whether you are a threat that must be eliminated. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Council offers an alternative, a seat at the galactic table, recognition of humanity as a sovereign power with all rights and protections that entails. And in exchange, you cease your military expansion and agree to submit territorial disputes to Council arbitration. Jake looked at Syrah, who nodded almost imperceptibly. This was apparently a significant offer. And if we refuse? He asked. Then the Coalition continues its attack, and the Council will not intervene. Worse, we will classify humanity as a rogue species. Every civilization in the galaxy will be authorized to take defensive action against you. Earth will face not thousands of ships, but millions. You cannot win that war, Commander Morrison, no matter how advanced your weapons. The bridge was silent. Jake's tactical officers watched him, waiting for orders. He could see the same question in all their eyes. Do we keep fighting, or do we accept the olive branch? I need to consult with Earth Command, Jake said finally. You have 1 hour, Elisera replied. After that, the Council withdraws its offer and the galaxy makes its own decision about humanity's fate. The transmission ended. President Marcus Lawson appeared on Jake's private communications screen minutes later, his face haggard. I've been briefed on the situation. What's your assessment? Sir, we can hurt them badly, maybe even win this battle. But the Matriarch is right about the larger picture. If the entire galaxy unites against us, we lose. It's simple mathematics. So we accept limitations on our sovereignty after everything the Crithians did to us? Jake was quiet for a moment. Sir, my grandfather used to say that knowing when to hold your ground and when to be strategic are both forms of courage. We've proven humanity can fight. Now we need to prove we can think beyond the next battle. Lawson rubbed his eyes. The Council of Ancients. Our intelligence has files on them going back to the Crithian archives. They've maintained peace in the core galaxies for over 40,000 years. If they're offering us a seat at that table, it means they see us as equals. Or as a threat they'd rather manage than destroy, Secretary Wu interjected from off-screen. Either way, it's better than fighting the entire galaxy, Lawson said. Morrison, you have authorization to accept the Council's terms, with one condition. Earth retains full military autonomy. We'll submit disputes to arbitration, but we won't disarm. Understood, sir. Jake reopened the channel to Matriarch Elisera. Humanity accepts the Council's offer, with the condition that we maintain our own defense forces. Agreed. No one is asking you to disarm, Commander. We're asking you to channel your strength toward constructive ends. She turned her attention to the Coalition fleet. Archon Zelnoth, you and your allies will disperse immediately. Humanity is now under Council protection. Any further aggression will be considered a violation of the Accords. Zelnoth's crystalline face twisted with frustration, but it knew better than to challenge the Council directly. This isn't over, humans. The Council's protection won't last forever. Neither will your bravado, Jake replied. We'll be ready whenever you want to try again. The Coalition fleet began to withdraw. their ships limping away from the battlefield. The humans had won, not through total victory, but through forcing the galaxy to recognize them as players rather than prey. As the tactical display cleared, Lisa Grant's battered Retribution pulled alongside the Defiant. Her face appeared on screen, showing burns and exhaustion. "We did it, Jake. We actually did it. We survived," he corrected. "The real work starts now. We have to figure out how to exist in a galaxy that's been playing this game for thousands of years longer than us." Syrah stepped forward, her silver eyes reflecting something that might have been respect. "Commander, the Valkyrie would like to propose a formal alliance. Not just technology sharing, but a mutual defense pact. Together, our species can ensure that what happened to Earth and what happened to my people never happens again." "I think Earth Command will be very interested in that conversation." As they shook hands, human and alien, Jake looked out at the stars and thought about how much had changed in just 3 months. Humanity had gone from an isolated species facing extinction to a recognized galactic power with allies and a voice in interstellar affairs. But he also knew that Archon Zelnoth was right about one thing. This wasn't over. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only seen a fraction of its dangers. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus Point, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the newly constructed Council Chamber on Earth. The building rose from the rebuilt ruins of Geneva, a symbol of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. Representatives from 47 different species filled the hall, their varied forms a reminder of just how diverse the universe truly was. Matriarch Elisara called the session to order. "Today we address the matter of the former Crithian territories. 68 systems remain under human occupation. The Council must determine their final status." Archon Zelnoth rose immediately, its crystalline form refracting the chamber's light. "The humans claim they liberate, but they occupy. They have military installations on every world they conquered. This is imperialism wearing a mask of righteousness." Jake stood calmly. "Those installations exist because the species in those systems asked us to stay. The Crythians enslaved 17 different civilizations. We freed them. Now they're deciding their own futures, and many have requested human protection while they rebuild." "Convenient," Zelnoth sneered. "And I suppose their gratitude has nothing to do with your gravity weapons pointed at their cities?" "Actually," a new voice interrupted, "it has everything to do with the fact that humans keep their promises." A small furred creature stepped forward. This was Ambassador Tylan of the Recan people, whose world had been under Crithian rule for 3 centuries. When Commander Morrison's fleet liberated Rika, we expected new masters. Instead, we got food, medicine, and engineers who helped us restart our infrastructure. The humans didn't demand tribute. They didn't install governors. They asked us what we needed and then provided it. "Other," representatives murmured in agreement. The Sorath delegates stood. "The same occurred on our world. Earth sent teachers, not soldiers. They shared technology freely. This is not occupation. This is alliance." Elisara studied Jake with those ancient, knowing eyes. "Commander Morrison, what does humanity want from these systems? Trade partners, allies, friends." Jake looked around the chamber. Earth spent its entire history divided, fighting itself, wasting resources on conflicts born from fear and misunderstanding. When the Crithians attacked, we finally united. We learned that survival means cooperation. We're offering these liberated worlds the same choice we made: stand together or face the galaxy alone. "Pretty words," Zelnoth said. "But words don't change the fact that humanity has become the single most powerful military force in known space. Your fleet grows larger every month. Your technology advances at a rate that should be impossible. How long before you decide the Council's rules no longer apply to you?" Jake met the Archon's multi-dimensional gaze. "We could have destroyed your coalition fleet at Nexus Point. We had the weapons. We had the anger. We chose restraint instead. That choice defines us more than our weapons ever will. One choice doesn't guarantee future behavior." "You're right," Jake admitted. "So judge us by our actions. We've opened our research facilities to Council inspectors. We've shared our gravitational technology with the Valkyrie and any species willing to use it for defense rather than conquest. We've established humanitarian programs on 12 worlds that have nothing to do with military advantage. If that's not enough proof, then nothing we say here will convince you." Matriarch Elisara raised her hand for silence. "The Council will vote. Should humanity retain administrative authority over the liberated Crythian territories, subject to regular Council oversight?" The vote was close, but humanity won. 30 votes in favor, 17 against. Zelnoth's crystalline face darkened. "This is a mistake the galaxy will regret. But it is also an opportunity. Humanity, you have earned your place here through strength and diplomacy. Do not squander it." Later, Jake stood on the observation deck looking up at Earth's night sky. Ambassador Sira joined him, her presence announced by the soft hum of her teleportation device. "You've changed the galaxy, Commander. For better or worse, nothing will be the same." "That's what scares me," Jake admitted. "We were just trying to survive. Now we're responsible for 68 star systems, and millions of lives depending on us to get this right. Welcome to the burden of power. The Valkyrie have carried it for millennia. You learn to live with the weight." Jake thought about the crew members he'd lost, the cities on Earth still being rebuilt, the species depending on humanity to be better than their previous oppressors. "We almost didn't make it. If the Crythians had been smarter, if the Coalition had been more coordinated, Earth would be ashes right now. But you did make it, and now you have allies," Sira smiled. "The Valkyrie Senate voted yesterday. We're establishing a joint research facility with Earth, our scientists working alongside yours, our security linked to yours. We've fought alone for 6,000 years. It will be pleasant to have friends for a change." A notification flashed on Jake's communicator. He read it and felt a chill run down his spine. "What is it?" Sira asked. Deep Space Monitoring detected a massive energy signature at the edge of charted space. Something big just entered the galaxy. "Our sensors can't identify it, but the power readings are off every scale we have." "The Void Dwellers," Sira whispered. "Elisara warned us about them. Contact Earth Command. Get every available ship ready for deployment." Jake stared at the stars, knowing that humanity's trials were far from over. "Looks like we're about to find out if we're really ready for this galaxy." In the darkness between stars, something ancient stirred. It had watched humanity's rise with interest. The species that had defied the Crythian Empire, united a fractured galaxy, and forced the Council to acknowledge them deserved closer examination. The entity's consciousness stretched across light years, processing information in ways biological minds could never comprehend. Humanity was young, aggressive, unpredictable. They would make excellent subjects for the experiment, or excellent enemies if they proved resistant. Either way, the Void Dwellers were coming, and they would test humanity's resolve in ways the Crythians never could. Jake Morrison watched the stars and made a silent promise to every human who had died defending Earth, to every species now looking to humanity for protection, to every future generation who would inherit the galaxy they were shaping. Whatever came next, humanity would face it standing tall, because that's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They fought. And